I welcome you all. I know some of you have traveled, like Professor Hunoud, I think how many miles. It's a pleasure to see you here, and we should start shortly. Let me start quickly. This conference, or this, if you like, initiative, started in 2005-06, and we were discussing, my area is technology transfer, those who they don't know me. I did my PhD on technology transfer, and when I did my PhD in 1999-2000, the case study I used was the Jazeera scheme, which is the largest agricultural scheme, I think, in the whole world, in Sudan. So that was the best place to do a test on technology transfer model, because you have the technology providers, which are the University of Jazeera, and the Agricultural Research Corporation, which was the largest in Africa. And you have the technology users, which are the farmers. And you have the technology transfer agencies, which is the extension services. So it was the best place to test the concept. So after I did that, one of the results we found is that the people who provide or produce technology and knowledge, in most of the cases, senior professors, they do not take considerations of the users, which are the farmers. And this was acknowledged and even commended by somebody I highly respect, which is Professor Usman Ahmed Ali Ajib. Those who they don't know him, he used to be the Director General of the Agricultural Research Corporation, very distinguished scientist, agronomist actually is. And he said that was been a problem, particularly for a 100-old research institution. After that, in the 2001, 2, 3, 4, I have started working with many other people, one of them from IDS, called Robert Chambers. Some of you might hear about him. He had a very famous book called Farmers First. He also argued the same. If you want to transfer technology or knowledge, you have to go to the user to understand his conditions, his capability, his affordability, and so on and so on. For this year, the focus is how to connect scientists or knowledge providers or technology providers abroad with the country's scientific base, and also to have or to be able to be involved in the policy and decision making. So it's not just about connecting. And we have a very good example today. I'm very pleased. This paper on the second session by a team of 4, one from Aberdeen University, Hassan Hamdoun, with people from Zain, which I'm sure you all know it, one of the leading ICT or telecommunication companies in the whole region, with Marwan from the Knowledge Society. They have worked together, and they produced the paper. And to see how professional they are ready on the Skype. They have recorded the presentation, and they sent it to me. I found it in the morning. So if everything failed, we have a video here to show you the lecture. But it's a good example. It's in your book. A good example of how scientists or academics can work together. We have many other examples. Sam Azzeddin is one of them. He does not just go to Darfur and help or treat people there, but he actually went there and collected data and analyzed that data, which then this data was published in the British Medical Journal, I can't remember, 2010 or 9. The issue with that, once it's been published, that means it will have implications for policymakers. And the idea is, you do not just need to collaborate, but we need to make ourselves included in Sudan. And that's the best way you can have your, and I have experienced this myself. You need to be included, but if we stay passively sitting here, we're saying people they are not listening to us, or they're not. Let's see how we can. I have been seeing in this researchers initiative every day. This Hassan Hamdoun, for example, he's in Sudan now. He's not here. That's why he's not here. I have seen 3, 4 notices about lectures he's going to give in the engineering society and so on. There's many ways we can make our views live there. The way I see it, and I think this is the case on all African and Latin American countries. I don't have much experience in the Asian countries, but what I have found it, those countries in Africa and Latin America, they are desperate for their expertise. So they're not going to say no. I know many people will come and say no, they will not take. For me, if I can find somebody to let me give my talk and share my knowledge, whether he take it or not, it doesn't matter. Because there will be some people who they will take it. I receive emails every day from people in Sinnar, in Chendi, very remote areas, asking for that book we did on food security. Food security in Sudan. We did that with the people from University of Khartoum and the FAO. I don't have a copy of that book because it's all finished, but they keep asking for that copies of that book. I sent it to them by email.
Basically, my talk is on, are we dispersed, but are we united? I think the whole idea is, as young people, me and Yusra representing, got it. We are of our generation, so I think we speak on this best from anyone who has lived here, and obviously Yusra just moved here, but I've lived here all of my life. So basically the youth of Sudan, my favorite thing about the Sudanese in general is that even though we come from a third world country and there's not a lot going on, we are so non-self-deprecating. We're a nation that are so proud of ourselves, and we think the world of ourselves, which is funny when we don't actually have that amazing sustainability situation in Sudan. It's nice that we still look at Sudan and we're like, yeah, we're Sudanese and it's great. Even though everyone else is like, is it though? Is it great? Which is nice. I like that about Sudan. We necessarily here don't really know what's happening there. So I think there isn't really that communication going from the youth there to the youth here so that we can understand what they're doing and they can understand what we're doing. Another thing is, which I find very funny, is even when I go to Sudan and we have a cut-off of electricity and the Wi-Fi goes down, somehow everyone's still Instagramming, they're still Facebooking, they're still Snapchatting. The kids there are social. They're very social, and we need to not disregard the fact that they are alert and they are live on the internet. It's not just us because we're in a Western world that we are. They're on it, probably more than we're on it.
I want to tell you about an existing experiment, and it was not created to become a model for diaspora, but it is. The objective of this program is to enable lecturers, that is people lecturing in Sudan is somebody who has a master's degree in the subject, lecturers who hold master's degree to obtain PhD in computer science and information technology in the country, and he should do current research problems, okay? He can come with me and do a PhD. Alhamdulillah, 30 people have done it, but it's not granted that it's current research because you want somebody focusing on a certain area and working on it up to date, okay? And this is scarce in our country. Under qualified supervisor and at an affordable cost. The way forward, we want money to fund the participation of our students in international conferences. These are PhD students, and it is their right to go and present their research. Okay, now those sponsored by some agencies can do it, the others cannot afford to do it. Okay, and it is time now. We now admitted batch 6. It is time to study the whole experience and find what is our weakness and how can we improve on the performance. More involvement of diaspora. In this program, we have only 2 Sudanese. One is a professor in the University of Florida and one in Malaysia. Okay. So we wish to have more diaspora.
The aim of this study is to assess the standard of nutrition and dietetic services which is delivered to some governmental and special or private hospital in Jeddah city. Also, we want to emphasize the need or the importance of the enrollment of dietitian to be a part of the medical team for controlling and management chronic diseases. Any chronic disease must have a team or medical team. I will just do it here. For health care team for chronic kidney disease, we have, of course, the general practitioner is very important. Also, we have the renal coordinator, which will show the patient how to follow their condition. Also, we have medical social workers to socially help the patient. And the nephrologist or the human or the doctor who is specialized in kidney diseases, and also the pharmacist to show the patient how to use their medication appropriately. And finally, of course, the renal dietitian. To complete the picture here, I have to say that renal dietitian is very important to be involved in any medical team for chronic diseases, and the need of diasporic engagement. This is not only in Saudi Arabia, but also in Sudan. We have many dietitians abroad, even in Saudi Arabia. There are many Sudanese dietitians. One of them is Dr. Najat is here with us, and they are involved, but we are diasporic.
Sudan was ranked as the fourth largest exporter of refugees in the world. But if you look at it, the second and the third are Somalia and Afghanistan, and we cannot call them countries because there are no governments there. And Sudanese also was pointed out by an American official as one of the main countries which are working in human trafficking. The tribes which are divided between Eritrea and Sudan are Beni Amir, Habab, Rashaida, Shukriya. And therefore, these people, when they come from Eritrea to Sudan, they become Sudanese. And when they go from Sudan to Eritrea, they are Eritreans.
Most Sudanese, they believe that Malaysia is something wonderful. It is wonderful indeed, but it has its own problems. And for us who go, I mean, anybody else who goes to live in a different country, definitely you come through a lot of problems, whether with the society, whether with the system, or sometimes with yourself. And this is what we can discover. We will notice that some of the problems here are created by the students themselves. The Sudanese community in Malaysia, they are part and parcel of African youth in the greater Southeast Asia. Now, some carry Sudanese. Now, you could see the Sudanese youth who come to study. You will find some of them, they have Sudanese passports, but they've never been to Sudan, less lived there for any extended periods of time. One of the very interesting things, if you really want to identify the Sudanese youth there, you will discover that, I mean, normally we say we are Sudanese, and we have certain common features, whether we like it or not. It's very easy to tell whether this is a Somali, or a Nigerian, or an Ethiopian, or a Sudanese, because just taking a little bit background, the cultural background, the mannerisms, the way people do things, I mean, it can tell very much that this is a Sudanese, or that's a Nigerian, and so and so. But in overall, I mean, the features are more or less the same. I mean, for the last 25 years, all my friends, majority of them, if not all, they call me a Nigerian.
This is ties with what Basma has said, that in a lot of people in Sudan are very young. Yeah, if you're looking at any clinic in the West, the people will be like here. So I still see patients, you know, I practice in Nottingham, Glasgow. I work in a lot of hospitals in the UK, maybe up to like 40 hospitals. And we see people normally like 55, 65, 75, 85, 95. Last patient was 98, came on a bike. So people in Sudan are a lot younger than people we see in the West. I just felt that there is an infrastructure of healthcare which is developing, but it's still miles away. This is, if you are in hospital, you're still not 100% safe or having the water you need, so you might go around and shop around for water, and you buy it. To be honest, this is a bit old. It's not from this year. So this is a tanker delivering water within the hospital setting. So if you're a relative of a patient, you might need to walk around and buy water for yourself, just to look after yourself and so forth. In concept of neurology and rehabilitation, we have problems that if somebody lost the use of their legs, this young chap is paralyzed. Is paralyzed. So when they use the ability to mobilize, then patients will develop cardiovascular problems because they lose the ability to remain fit. So this chap, this bicycle or wheelchair mobile is being developed locally, and he's propelling it with his hands, and that's just exactly what you need. with the wheels. And then somebody else, this is from Eastern Sudan. This is my colleague Oshek and Bashar Hussein. They published this in an older paper. So I find them looking together. So by this, it's just saying you need the science, you need the experience, you need the technology. If you don't have it, that's not the end of the story, because it's just, all of it is expensive. Sometimes some people, they just can't afford to buy what advances and technology you have. Some people will refer to local sort of resources, but using the same amount of knowledge and advance in medicine, they can really remain fit and healthy and very happy.
Thank you very much, everybody, and I hope that you have a cup of tea to refresh you, because I'm going to send you to sleep, apparently. So I'm glad to be the first presenter of this session. And as you can see, I will speak about the role of the manufacturing sector in the Sudanese economy. And just to help your appetite, actually this is a picture from the golden age of the Sudan. It is the Sudan Railways workshops in Adbara, and it is in 1960s, where Sudan actually used to have, an industry used to have an important role in the Sudanese economy. Unfortunately, this is not necessarily the case now. So by way of introduction, it's very easy to see that the Sudanese economy now, it is in a state of crisis. And this is not my actual judgment. This is a judgment of economic experts, for example, by Professor Usman Mohammed, who said that the performance of the Sudanese economy is an enigma of failures, even with the potential of country's resources. So it is not a secret anymore. It's fair to say that Sudanese economy is agriculturally based. The role of the industry generally and manufacturing in particular is very small. You can actually say that about 8.5% of the GDP come from the industrial sector, and that shows very low importance. And even by things like the Nation Masters, they rank the Sudan as a country with low industrial production. However, we have to remember that all developing countries which wanted to actually get out of the poverty zone, they had adopted industrialization as an important part of their development model. So Sudan will not be the exception. So there is no escaping from the fact that we have to improve. So the Sudan needs to adopt an integrated sustainable development plan where industry represents the pivotal point. And when I say the word industry here, I use it very specifically. I know in the literature these days, you can find the word industry is used for everything. They use it for, services, for, even interestingly, there is something called sex industry in this world now. I do not mean that. I mean the industry, as I said here, refer to categories of production industry with measurable physical output, such as manufacturing and transport, ICT, and so on.
So we want to introduce the mobile banking to financial institution of microfinance and to the customer to increase the outreach. Sudan is a very big country, then we want to have a branchless bank from the mobile as it happened in Kenya and South Africa. We want to do it in Sudan. This is all the idea about microfinance. Actually, we didn't learn from the developed countries. We have to learn from countries who are similar to Sudan. So in Kenya, in South Africa, in Zambia, in many countries, they already introduced the mobile microfinance, which is not a smartphone, it's just regular phone. So what are the problems facing the adoption of microfinance? The first one is technology, ICT. We have to convince the microfinance institution and also the companies who supply ICT to provide their service to develop the microfinance. And also the model, or business model now is practice. It should be also refined to be in line with microfinance mobile banking. Understanding also the mechanism drives Sudanese microfinance client intention. Actually, although this is a supply side, but we have to know the intention of the customer who receive, how microfinance, mobile banking will help them. Providing mobile banking service require collaboration, different stakeholders. We have the financial institutions, we have the government, and we have the telecommunication companies also, beside other collaborators. And the most important, number one, is a regulatory framework. We have to have a legal part of adapting the microfinance, which is under the cyber law.
As you may know, Sudan is an agriculture-based country, and agriculture contributes a lot in providing raw materials, and local industries account for 30% to 40% of export earnings and provide income and employment of major group of the population. However, agriculture consumes a lot of water. And unfortunately, so far, water in Sudan treated just an engineering issue, just to supply water. For what purpose? No one evaluate the water in the field and the returns from using water. And there is a competition on water. I'm trying to evaluate or to put value for water used in agriculture, as agriculture is the biggest consumptive water in the world, and particularly in Sudan. In Sudan, we have Jazeera Irrigated Scheme, is the largest irrigated scheme worldwide. Gash area. We have so many small pumping schemes along the Nile, and agriculture consumes about 95% of our available water in Sudan. So many problems in irrigated schemes. For example, there is a lot of money spent annually on operation and maintenance without significant progress in the output, particularly in Jazeera scheme. Recovery of operation and maintenance cost and other irrigation services costs are very low. There is a huge losses of water, cut out of growing areas. There is an accumulation of silt annually. There is a problem of productivity, low productivity. Also, there is the problem of water-associated diseases. All these problems, unfortunately, comes from low value of water.
The title of my research is The Economic Impact of Migration on the Welfare of Ethiopian Households. And this research is basically, what I'm basically trying to do is I'm looking at the impact migration has on the consumption expenditure of households. And in order to do that, I need to look and study and analyze the factors that determine the consumption expenditure of households in Ethiopia. And And I'd like to also add that although this research is purely focused on Ethiopia, I think it reflects to an extent the realities in many developing countries. And I think you can draw from it and draw parallels to Sudan. And based on my own experience of living in Sudan, we do exhibit similar migration patterns in Sudan. And before I start, I want to define what I mean by migration. When I say the word migration, I'm referring to both internal migration, so it's when people move from rural to rural areas or rural to urban areas. And when I refer to international migration, I'm referring to people who move from either rural or urban areas to other countries. And in the case of Ethiopia, a lot of migrants move to Sudan, Saudi Arabia, Israel, and the USA. Those are the four most popular destinations for Ethiopian migrants. And migration is a very common strategy for moving out of poverty because it improves the welfare of households. And the way it does that is it increases households' consumption and investment capacities, okay? And the main benefits of migration accrue through the receipt of remittances, okay? And by remittances, in Arabic, اللي هي التحويلات, is basically the transfer of cash or in-kind goods. So there's two types of remittances. There's cash remittances or goods. And remittances is basically the transfer of this cash or goods back to their origin households, okay? So their families back home.